Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Castaway Anime. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And I'm Armagon.
And we're back here once again with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6, Stone Ocean, the anime. And it's been a minute. 9 months, in fact.
It's really been 9 whole months already? Okay, I thought it was sooner than that.
Alright, so here's the thing, because... Alright, since December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, I think it's been 9 months.
It's definitely been 9 months since we recorded the first JoJo cast.
Yeah, and it's been like 4 months since it finished airing in Japan. Which, that'll come up again real soon, just wait.
I know Armagon has a lot of complaints about the way this season, or I guess this part of JoJo has been released recently.
It's crazy, man.
やるっていうのなら受けて立つわ。アメリカ方式、フランス方式、日本方式、イタリアナポリ方式、世界のフィンガーくたばりやがれよ。
Why is David and Netflix doing this? What is there to gain from this method?
Here's the thing. Because it's literally only happening this way because Netflix wanted to call first dibs.
Yes, but you'd think with all that money spent on getting first dibs on the JoJo anime, you'd think they'd want to prop up the JoJo anime as like a sort of pillar for the platform. I know it can't possibly compete with something like Stranger Things or whatever their big shows are, but surely it would be like an attraction.
They did not even advertise it for this second part.
I don't remember seeing a tweet from them being like, "Hey, part 2 of part 6 is out now," and I'm sure they did.
I think Netflix France did, but
like you think that'd be something you'd be putting in the promoted hashtags of the Twitter recommended tab.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, only the Frenchies
hardcore marketing
get called upon to watch JoJo's Part 6. Only those damn Frenchies.
And it wouldn't be so bad if it was just exclusively on Netflix, like it was only releasing on Netflix. But no, it's just they release the whole thing on Netflix and then they wait for Japan to catch up and then they'll make the next batch, but only after a few months have passed since Japan finished airing it.
To be fair, and granted, I'm not super well affiliated with how Netflix does things typically, but from what I can tell from an outsider's perspective, they really like releasing things such that they can that you can binge them, which might explain all
Netflix
the 12 episodes drops.
Netflix in the West does because Netflix Japan simulcasts.
Well, Netflix has actually been going about releasing episodes of shows week by week, mostly with their animation, with their big TV shows like Squid Game and Stranger Things. They release it all in one block, but with shows with Arcane, they release that week to week.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it changes with the show. But JoJo's is getting the drops on there.
It's because Arcane is League of Legends, and they gotta get that League of Legends hype.
Well, I don't know if it's just because of that. But for their anime that's not JoJo, they've been releasing that week to week. They did that with they do that with every seasonal that they pick up. They did it with Komi. They did it with Blue Period. They're doing it with Uncle from Another World.
It's literally just because Netflix wanted first dibs on JoJo. That's it.
Yeah, so you'd think they'd ditch the let's dump it all at once model with the lack of hype that surrounds it and release it week by week. So that way, water cooler talk around the show will last for have a longer shelf life.
I did not see anybody talk about this batch.
I think I saw one retweet from an account that I follow, and that's it.
I mean, to be fair, on AniList, most of the people I follow on there have JoJo's Part 2 either on watching or planning. So it is still.
Here's the thing:
big.
at the end of the day, it's JoJo's, but like the hype discussions that you would see with the previous parts is simply not there.
Yeah, I'm comparing the viewing experience I remember from part 5 to part 6, and it is just not even a contest.
I remember the weeks of anticipation leading up to the 7-page Muda.
I remember like every week being like, oh dude, this new clip, oh Bruno was so badass. Oh, look at this like cool Mista moment. Oh, the piano music goes crazy. Now all I see is like Stone Ocean new batch comes out. It trends on Twitter for like a day or two. I see 1 or maybe 2 clips get re-shared onto my timeline. That's it.
Honestly, when there's not even like part 6 memes going around, I think you messed something up.
Oh my god, there's no part 6 memes. Wait, is that... Hold on. Is that because part 6 is bereft of memes compared to the rest of the parts?
That could be it, but I mean, JoJo fans just kind of find a way.
I mean,
But
the only meme that I remember picking
right.
up on... The only 2 memes I can think of off the top of my head are... Just that have been animated so far for part 6 are... Foo Fighters drinking from the cup with a goofy expression, and the Hallelujah Messiah scene with Poochie.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of right.
And then the only other one that hasn't been adapted yet is Bohemian Rhapsody with the what the fuck, Mickey Mouse isn't even in this book or whatever.
I have no context, or I have zero context to the what the fuck Mickey Mouse isn't in this book.
I could have sworn we talked about Bohemian Rhapsody in the.
I remember you talking about that, but I don't remember the Mickey Mouse part. And I'm just trying to imagine a context in which that would exist, and I'm having a really fun time doing it.
You will see when the next batch comes in, which
in
that
9
actually
months.
That actually
in 9 months, yeah.
That actually will be
see
the
in
first
2023, baby.
Maybe by that point I'll finally have watched more of JoJo's, because I mean, last time I was sort of going in raw. You know, this is my first experience with JoJo's, and I was, you know, after that podcast, I was like, maybe I'll watch a little more JoJo's so that I can be more informed on the next podcast, and then I didn't. So, you know.
Well, I'll commend you for at least expanding your Shonen Jump palette by watching things like Ass Class and Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, I have been watching Hunter x Hunter recently, and I'm actually 31 episodes into it.
Speaking of watching anime, I just came out of my anime hiatus exclusively to watch part 6, and then I'll be going back until Mob Psycho comes out, so never mind.
What about Maiden Abyss?
Maybe.
You could watch the podcast then to get a feel for how fucked it gets.
True.
This is just an elaborate ploy to get Armagon getting us more watch time. All right, so here's a contentious topic that I saw some debate about in the general chat of the Castaway Anime Discord server that isn't public, so I don't know why it mentions that. But anyway, the OP is the same.
Yeah,
yes.
That's stupid. That's a sin.
It's not a bad OP. The thing is, the stuff in it has already happened.
It's irrelevant. It's like an irrelevant OP now.
That is true. I did notice that. Personally, I am not peeved. I'm not sure how JoJo's usually goes about its OPs.
I guarantee you, if you watched all of JoJo, or at least, no, if you have watched JoJo and then you got to this part, you'd be like, what the fuck?
It does feel like something I'm missing context for, definitely. But personally, I'm like, it's outdated, but I think the song is pretty bopping. So
it's nothing to do with like the OP itself, and more of it's time for something new. Because every time JoJo would change setting or whatever, or just an arc, it would change the OP. Like Isaac, imagine if in part 3, when they got to Egypt, they just kept Stand Proud.
Yeah, that'd be stupid, and they'd cuck us out of the best JoJo opening.
Okay, here, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, so let me give a comparison and you can tell me whether or not it's accurate. Like if, actually, I'm not sure if you have enough context to understand this, but if 2 Monogatari arcs in a row had the same OP.
Yes.
Okay,
that
that would
be the
make
problem.
me very mad. So
Yeah.
if it is
okay,
exactly
here,
like
let me-
that, then yes, I agree with you.
Okay,
completely.
let me put this in some context that you understand. What you'll know what the name of it. What is the name of the opening with the backpack girl from Monogatari doing the funny dance?
Hachikuji. I'm not
He does
exactly
not
sure
know
what the
what it is.
song is called.
Do you know which one I'm talking about though?
Yeah, the second OP.
Yeah. Okay. Imagine if that played for 2 arcs in a row. That for the arc that it was originally from and the next one.
Yeah, that would make me very upset.
And if they keep this OP in the third batch, then I'm gonna be really upset.
Well, yeah.
No, it's okay.
I
It's
can't
okay,
imagine
Frank.
them doing that.
They're gonna change the last few seconds of it. So instead of Jolene giving Jotaro a hug, Jotaro is going to like stand up with her. They're gonna summon their stands together. It's gonna be one cool looking shot, and then it's gonna cut to a shot of the sky again, and you're gonna be like, "Damn, that was worth the wait. That was worth the 9 months of anticipation."
I mean, they
we didn't
can't
need a second
keep it the
opening.
same for the next arc because they're outside
No, they
of
can't.
the jail.
We're out. Yeah, they broke out of the prison. The prison is in the past.
Yeah, so I mean, granted, I wasn't peeved about this, but if they like, I literally thought as the like after the final episode because I remembered all the debate about the OP. Like if they keep it the same for the third arc, then I'll be mad. I'll be
There's no
very
reason.
mad.
There's literally no reason.
I will play devil's advocate. I would bet money that they will change the opening this time to something new. Because
They
Yeah,
kind
they
of
have
have to.
to.
They have to.
yeah, they
especially
have to for
us.
this.
And also another reason that Isaac, you are well aware.
I'm well aware, and I'll say it to Crunchy, but I will not spoil the twist because of it. There is a thing with JoJo, and that at the last opening, ever since stands were introduced, in the last opening of every season of JoJo, there is a twist that happens, and that twist affects the opening in a really cool way. And that's all I'll say about that. And that's why the
Alright.
opening has to change, because it would make literally 0 sense if they kept the Stone Ocean OP the way it currently is for the third arc, and then tried to do the twist.
All right. Speaking of final OPs, I noticed that, or at least I remember that it's a JoJo's tradition to have the sound effects play in the final OP. That
Or
did not
more
happen this time around.
No, because they already did that.
What are they gonna do? Where's the sound file for Jolene giving Jotaro a hug?
That does make me wonder
Just
if
the
maybe
rustling
at
of some
first
clothing.
they intended to make a new OP, but for some reason didn't, because episode 12's OP of the first batch of episodes does have all the sound effects.
Yeah,
So I'm
because
wondering if
normally when they play sound effects, that usually means that OP is not coming back.
It's
But
like
it
the
did.
Swan Song version. It's like, all right, we're going out with a bang because this
think-
signifies the end of the arc. So now we're gonna do a new one.
The only exceptions, I believe, were Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town and Chase. They did not get sound effects versions.
No, but they also weren't the final
Yeah.
things of their the
did-
final episodes of their
Did
seasons.
Fighting Gold get FX?
I think it did, but I'm not sure if it was on TV.
Uh,
I'm not 100% sure that I think that might have been like a Blu-ray bonus or something.
yeah, I don't see any clips of just the sound effects version. Trader's Requiem had like 4.
Here's a hot take that might derail the conversation for the next few minutes and get us right pissed by the JoJo fans. it's crazy to me that, you know, Netflix is willing to spend all this money on the show, and David Production needs all of this time to make the show, and it still doesn't look that great.
You know what, Neon Manta? I must say that I very much positively, absolutely agree with everything you just said.
It's because they're releasing it in batches. Because if you noticed, the TV versions of the previous batch actually do feature some improvements.
You mean like the Blu-ray version? Oh wait, the TV version. That's right.
Yeah.
This isn't technically a TV show. This is a streaming show.
Mm-hmm. So
I did not look at the comparisons.
I don't think it's like too much. I just know like certain things were like smoothed out and, you know, fixed. I think whatever contracts David Pro has with Netflix, they have to release it by this day.
Did they un-CG my Whitesnake?
Yeah, he is not CGI in this batch, is he?
No, there was one shot.
Yeah, there's one.
Okay.
Granted,
it's when he was coming out of the ambulance, and it was only on screen for like 10 seconds, but I noticed it.
I
noticed as well.
There's a CGI stand in this batch. We'll get to that.
And that one didn't even look bad. It didn't look as bad as a fucking what was it called?
Jumping Jack Flash.
The nail. Yeah. But
I guess my main problem with JoJo's visuals is that sometimes it can feel, because these are, to be fair, very detailed character designs with a lot of lines. Like, okay, I can cut them a little slack on the animation not being the absolute smoothest, because when you watch like a Doga Koba show, like, okay, those are simple character designs. Obviously, it is easier to make those have smooth animation. But sometimes it's just too little. Like, sometimes the voice actors will be going ham with their lines, just having a field day, screaming those lines out, and the characters' faces are, like, barely moving.
I feel like dirty inside even thinking this, but watching this batch in particular, the words "moving manga" kept echoing in my head, and I was like, no, that's the last thing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure should be.
Yeah, I can see where you got that thought from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the post-processing effects are as good as, well, everything that's not CG is as good as it is. Most notably, everything to do with stone freeze strings.
I do wonder if part of it is due to like the stands featured in this batch are not like your typical stands. Like,
I mean, how you don't need to animate Jailhouse Rock very well.
Yeah.
Because, like, what do you need to animate? It's more of a concept than a thing that fights.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I do kind of get what you're saying. I do feel that it's Netflix's fault here, though. Like, whatever deadline they have to meet, it's kind of rushing it.
Here's the thing. I kind of felt this way a little bit watching Part 5. I'm still of the opinion that ever since Part 5, the animation in JoJo's hasn't quite reached the peaks of Parts 3 and 4. Well, actually, the entire series. But I feel like after Part 4, that's when the character design started to get really intricate, because David Production was trying to capture Araki's art style as close as possible, which is commendable, although now it's getting to the point where the artwork on the characters is so good, but the characters themselves are so complexly designed that now animating them is becoming like more of a pain in the ass.
They're gonna have to stop doing that when they get to Steel Ball Run.
Well, that's the thing. The further you go in JoJo, the more crazier the artwork becomes.
Mm-hmm.
That does make me curious to see what the earlier parts of JoJo's look like.
It almost looks like it was done by a different guy. Oh, I thought you were talking about the manga art.
No, I've seen the manga art from the first part of JoJo's, and yeah, it does. It is very different. But I'm talking specifically about the anime here because you said it had like smoother animation, and I wonder if I'll prefer that.
Like, I will show you. I'm gonna put this.
Oh, I'm gonna have an example.
Yeah, this doesn't necessarily have to be edited in the podcast because I'm just showing him. But this is what the art style was for when they did part 1 and part 2 back in like 2012. Like this is Jonathan here.
2012, 2013. And you
now,
can see like his
now of course
his
part 1
is
very
pretty tame.
Now of course part 1 is very simple, but you know.
Yeah. It's also pretty short. Well, also we should preface that because Crunchy probably doesn't know, part 1 and part 2 were animated it is part of like the same season of television.
Yeah, I knew that.
Okay. And then I feel like the character designs started getting like once part 5 hit, that was when Araki was like, I'm entering my Vogue fashion phase. My Gucci phase. Because that's when he was obsessed with putting his characters in the most ridiculous, pretty gay outfits, even ones that don't even make sense visually, with characters like, you have no context for this, but Diavolo, and someone who looks very similar in part 6, Anasui.
He was like, here's the screenshot. Like, see how it's so different compared to what it is right now?
Why did Araki give Jonathan a baseball cap? Was baseball even a thing by that point in this timeline?
Let's see. Baseball was invented in 1876. When does JoJo Part 1 take place?
Like
1880. So, okay, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, alright. But yeah, I feel like I know it's sacrilege to doubt the wise and great David production because they been doing such a good job with JoJo up to this point, but it feels like maybe Araki's art is going beyond their level.
Yeah, like let's take a look at part 7, like Steel Ball Run.
Like while you're doing that, like can you think of a single animation cut that from this batch in particular that stood out to you, be like, whoa, that was cool?
Honestly, not really. I'm trying to think of any bit of animation that I thought where I was like, oh, whoa, you moved the character with that much detail at that level of smoothness. Whoa. But no, it was mostly just a lot of static shots. Not the smoothest animation. Once again, I'm willing to give a lot of it a pass, but I think a lot of the time it does reach that level of being a bit too stiff, where it's like, maybe get a few more people to like clean this up a little bit, make it look a little smoother, give it a little more pop. It is certainly not a bad looking show. I will say that.
I know what the immediate copium defense is for this, and it's like, oh, JoJo isn't like this fast-paced like battle shonen like your Naruto's or your One Pieces, where like the characters are constantly moving and like moving at all these crazy super light speeds and darting around all over the place and hitting each other with like planet-busting levels of attacks. So the animation doesn't have to be as crazy, but like even part 5 I can distinctly recall very impressive animation cuts in part 5, just going off the top of my head. I'm sorry to once again leave you out of this, Crunchy, because you don't know what we're talking about, but
this
Purple
is
Haze is Stand Rush.
This is the type of thing David Pro's gonna have to animate when they get to part 7, like.
Yeah, just compare that design to a Jonathan's design. We're showing a picture of Gyro, by the way.
Yeah. Seems pretty much impossible to animate in all that detail.
And they have to deal with horses.
Which are notoriously hard to do in 2D.
And also the Gyro's balls right there. Like, that, because that's a big thing. in this part 7.
He's got big, massive swinging balls that he likes to throw around other men.
We're kind of getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
Let's start. talking
So,
about.
what did you think of this batch of episodes?
It
Everyone.
is JoJo's. It is pretty good. The worst part about it is that they didn't use the flaccid pancake localization name for Limp Bizkit.
Oh, that's right, they didn't.
They used Limp Bizkit.
And that's fucking lame. I wanted to see Flaccid Pancake. That was a top tier localization name.
Crazy.
So yeah, a lot of the names on my subs were the ones changed to, if I recall correctly, avoid copyright concerns, which was a little annoying to deal with. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's just
like,
the
okay,
life
I
of a
have to-
JoJo fan in
yeah.
the West. You
I have
just
to listen
have
to what they're
accept that.
saying to put it correctly in my notes, so I know what they're talking about when we start the podcast. Because I remember last time I wasn't privy to the knowledge that they change a lot of the stand names and attack names for copyright reasons. So I remember you constantly saying stuff like, oh yeah, in this stand, and you'd name it, and I'd be like, wait, which one is that? Oh no, flip through my notes. Wait, I don't see it in the notes.
Did I skip an episode?
So I tried my best to get all the names of everything correct, but I'm sure I missed one. Like I have to have.
Speaking of Limp, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in your defense this time around, they actually didn't change too many of the names this time. They were pretty similar sounding. Like, instead of Flaccid Pancake, it's Limp Viscit. Instead of Yo-Yo Ma, it's Yaya Ma. Instead of Jailhouse Rock, it's Jailhouse Lock.
It's really funny because like, I guess you wouldn't be wrong for that last one because, you know, Japan's L's and R's. So
their L's are their R's. They don't say the letter L in Japanese.
So you wouldn't be wrong to think that Jailhouse Lock was the actual name.
Yeah, I thought it was the actual name. I didn't catch that one.
But yeah, speaking of Limp Bizkit, that's the first episode in this batch. The first two-parter.
Yeah, it picks up where we left off after the first batch, where Poochie's gone to meet Sports Max, and he's trying to get him to use his ability on Dio's bone, because he's plotting something.
Not gonna lie, I watched the first 2 episodes of this like brain dead tired, and I remember having such a hard time paying attention. And on top of that, I barely remembered the first season. So it was a bit of a learning curve, a few difficulties at the beginning. I did end up remembering most of the important stuff though, because you kind of have to follow along. So.
Damn, you must have been real confused by how his stand works then.
If I recall,
I watched the episode with proper sleep, and I still don't quite understand how it works.
From what I can understand, it's basically corpses in the room can be reanimated but invisible, and they can also go through the walls or like climb the walls or whatever.
Yeah, they're basically not bound to like their normal rules.
But here's something that did confuse me, right? So it's in episode 14, or I guess episode 2 of this block, where Aramis is basically decapitating the guy once he's become a ghost, or I guess a zombie, because it's reviving the dead. But anyway, she decapitates him, but it doesn't work because, you know, he's a zombie. But then the zombie like swallows part of her head, but then she uses Kiss to send it flying back, and that shoots through his stomach, and that does harm him. And I was confused as to why the decapitation didn't work, but that did. And also the median line thing, that also confused me, because like, well, why does that work, but not decapitation? Is it just because specifically zombies' heads can't be cut off? Or am I missing something?
I think the body, the real body just has to take a certain amount of damage, because like we see with the bird and the crocodile. But then obviously the ones that were in the crypt, it's best you don't think about it too much. But
that stand also doesn't make a whole lot of sense, cause it's been a while since I forget how. Well, actually, I shouldn't question it because Araki makes up new stand rules all the fucking time. I was like, well, if the user's dead and he was also able to use his stand's ability even when he's alive, but it's also works when he's dead.
Yeah, it is one of. To be fair, we do have those stands that do work even after the user dies. Like it's not like a first time thing. We've seen it before.
Well, yeah, but we've seen him use it both when he was alive and dead.
I think what it is he used it when he was alive and he didn't turn it off, so it grabbed him when he died. But he didn't realize it until later.
I guess it's something that should have been explained a little more, but I guess it could be written off as a nitpick, even if it was kind of confusing.
To be honest, it's not even the most confusing stand out there, so I don't blame you.
The way Ernest uses Kiss to beat him though was pretty badass.
Mm-hmm. And I do see as a manga reader, sometimes I can tell when stuff that wasn't in the manga was added, like the scene when she beats him. And then Gloria's soul comes in and hugs her. That wasn't in the manga, and I thought that was pretty neat.
That's a cool addition. Oh yeah, speaking of things that were that got added or might not have been added, I never bothered to Google this before the podcast because I figured you'd know the answer. In the manga, whenever Foo Fighters shot her plankton gun, did it always have like gun parts on her finger?
I believe it may have.
Because my only other frame of reference for this is the video game, which she was only just added to, but I don't remember seeing gun parts on her finger. And I also distinctly remember her shooting off bits of plankton from her fingers like guns in the first batch of episodes, but she didn't have the gun parts.
It's a later edition.
Okay.
Yeah. See.
All right. All right. So it was always there.
Well, it wasn't there originally, but then Araki was like, "Hey, well, this would be cool."
She just makes the machine part. Well, I guess part of her body is the machine shape, so it's not out of the realm of plausibility.
Yeah, I guess you could explain it like that.
What else? There was what the fuck? I know. I'm trying to remember what happens in between Sports Max and like the big jail scene. Because once we get taken to the maximum security house, that's where like we're there for like the rest of this batch.
Yeah.
Or was there nothing in between?
No, I think you might be thinking of like at the very beginning where we start at the maximum security part, but then it cuts back to before that happened.
Oh, that's how it went down. Okay, I got super confused. I thought she was taken there immediately after she got out of the jail.
No.
From the end of the first batch.
No.
But why?
Netflix.
Is that how the manga paced itself?
I don't believe.
Because, like, why would her being in the mausoleum within the jail cause her to get put into the maximum security house, but her being outside of the prison walls isn't?
So it was because it was like the second big offense. Keep in mind, this prison would be very much shut down in real life, but the justification the guards used was because she tried to escape once, And then the second time, she was found in a really suspicious situation that they can't actually prove it was her, but they're just gonna lock her up in the maximum security prison anyways. Which very much
But if we've already established that this is a corrupt prison and also kind of being run by Pucci himself, who has it out for Jolene, wouldn't it make more sense to just put her in maximum security with the other stand users immediately after the initial jailbreak attempt?
Well, you gotta remember, Pucci's whole thing is that he didn't think Jolene would be like this much.
But but he sends stand users after her, even before he knew she had a stand.
It wasn't before that though.
Did Pucci not send people like Goo Goo Dolls after her?
No, Goo Goo Dolls was just some random.
But didn't she have the discs?
No.
But didn't
She's always had Goo Goo Dolls. Well, I mean, after she like got stung by the little thingy, but
by the arrow.
Yeah, but no, she's just a natural stand user.
But didn't her discs get ejected when she lost?
No.
Whose discs got ejected when they lost?
I believe it's everyone after the first escape attempt.
God, Dan Manta like stumbled out of the Twilight Zone on this one.
I'm not making this up. Someone. Okay, well, hold on. Foo Fighters. Was Foo Fighters not like instructed to take out Jolene?
Yes.
That was
Whitesnake? Well, no, Foo Fighters was just instructed to guard the discs.
But then
so like anybody who got close was just a target.
I must be either I'm missing something or hold on. I need to figure this out. Here, talk about one of the other episodes while I look this up.
All right, so I guess I'll come in with my sort of experience with this show. Like I said, I started off very confused and brain dead tired. And after 2 episodes, like I was planning on watching a few more that night, but I was like, I'm too tired for this. I can't even understand anything. So I woke up the next day and binged the latter 10 episodes in a single day. Because I was right up against the podcast deadline. And I eventually figured out most of the big plot points from season 1. Also, a big issue was that I didn't know what was answered in season 1 and what wasn't for some of the things, like the bone. I was like, oh wait, should I know what this is? And then as the series went on, I was like, okay, so this is this is supposed to be somewhat of an unknown variable.
All right, I'm back. I said the wrong stand name. I should have said Marilyn Manson, not Goo Goo Dolls. But here, I'm not fucking crazy. Look, it's uploaded. Yeah, there.
That's not the Goo Goo Dolls stand user, though.
Yeah, it's
the Marilyn Manson stand user. But
yeah,
was she not? I meant to say when I said Goo Goo Dolls before, sent after Jolene. I was thinking Marilyn Manson. I got the names confused.
Yeah, but that's like episode 10. That's like way later. That's after Jolene has.
Yeah, but that was before the first jailbreak attempt.
No.
What do you mean, no?
No.
Wasn't the first jailbreak attempt like super early into the series?
Yes.
Then what? Okay, what? No, all right. I could have sworn.
He really did stumble out of the Twilight Zone.
Did Jolene make it out of the prison walls again when she was getting the disc of the Star Platinum disc back with the bird?
She was technically no, because she was on like like a certain type of probation, something she couldn't go in specific areas. So when she came to the courtyard, they would have been more punishing, but because it was raining poison frogs, they kind of just be like, oh, she was like desperate to like get away from that or something. So they didn't mind there because it was raining poison frogs.
Okay. All right, I think I'm piecing the order of events in my head better now. Although my point still stands that they still were aware of the discs and whatnot.
She became aware of the discs after the first Hermes fight with whoever.
Although this also just raises another question to me now that I think about it. How come when Marilyn Manson loses the fight, why does her memory and her stand disc get ejected when other people just in JoJo just lose when they lose a fight?
We do see some other discs get ejected from other people in the first batch mainly.
But is there like a difference between getting a stand from the arrow and being gifted a stand with a disc?
I think it's fun. I think the difference is that you can lose the disc if Whitesnake takes it, but
yeah, but Whitesnake didn't take it.
No, actually,
Manson just got her ass kicked, and
yeah, actually, I think that
popped out.
I think that's it. If you get beaten, you might lose it because we see it with other examples too.
Okay.
Because it's not like your stand, basically.
Well, it's an incredibly good thing that characters like what the fuck was the Feng Shui guy's name?
The what?
The Feng Shui guy?
I don't know.
Dragon's Dream?
Yeah, I don't know what his name is.
Well, it's a good thing that he was gifted a stand disc that just so happened to coincide with his cult founding thing. the whole reason why his cult was founded.
Actually, I think they mentioned he just developed it on his own.
What the fuck? I do not get why I can understand the Joestars developing on their own because there's like there's a precedent, but like there's stands given to you by the arrow, stands given to you by discs from Whitesnake. What separates someone from completely unrelated from these events just developing a stand on your own?
That's happened though. It just happens. It's like the X gene in X-Men. Some people just get it.
Yeah, but I thought it only originated because when Dio awoke in his stand.
No, that was for the Joestars.
His bloodline.
That was for the Joestars specifically.
Yeah, and then. Okay.
Do you understand?
I could have sworn though. I thought Dio invented stands. I know it was like.
Bro, they literally explain in part 5 where like the stand arrow came from and how people had stand users before.
I don't know. This is what happens when Araki does not have a set in stone explanation and keeps losing the plot.
I don't even know. I feel like you're the first person to question where stands come from. I just assumed, hey, people just get this at some if they're lucky.
I mean, there's also a precedent where stands are also aliens, so
yeah.
We also don't know where the arrow comes from, so it is implied that isn't it implied that the arrow is made up of like a meteorite or some shit?
It's not implied. It's not implied. It just straight up is.
Well, yes, and then since there's a stand user that comes from space, it's implied that it is indirectly implied that stands are just aliens. Or at least or have alien origins.
In this continuity, because then we get to the steel
and and then we get to part 7. It's like, nope, you just develop them. They're just a normal thing.
As someone who is not privy to a lot of the JoJo's lore, this was a really interesting debate to listen to.
Well, it's insulting also when if it's insulting to accept that some people just develop them on their own because that completely invalidates the driving goal of part 3 because the entire point of part 3 is to develop a cure for someone developing a stand that's killing them. Because they're not strong enough to wield it.
Yeah, but
when
that person
literal
happens
children
to be,
will go on to wield stands.
That person happens to be the Holly's thing didn't make sense, but she is a Joestar, so you could argue that whatever Dio had was affecting her.
Then why didn't it affect Jotaro?
It affected Josuke.
Yeah, until Josuke saved him.
One of the many forgotten threads of part 4.
Yeah, you see, this is the thing about what Araki's writing. It can be so scattershot that like one plot hole can lead to another.
And like, for some reason, we just accept it.
I mean, this last few minutes, I have not fully accepted it.
Yeah, but it's crazy how JoJo just kind of gets away with it. For some, like, other anime can't, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know, maybe there was so little to grasp onto in this batch that I'm trying to like think of anything else.
I mean,
or maybe I'm just trying to remember back when JoJo was better than this. Because like,
so you said there was
Stone Ocean is fated. Stone Ocean is fated to be cursed.
So you were saying that there was very little to grasp onto in this arc. Could you elaborate on that for a little bit?
I think back to the last 5 parts of JoJo, and I think the story is fine. It's like typical JoJo stuff, but it's just that like every other aspect about the anime is like just inferior to what's come before. Animation not as great. The art is still somewhat inconsistent. Like it's good when it's good, it's good, but they'll still do bullshit things like have gray outlines for background characters.
I wanted to comment on that.
Hang on, real quick. I want to say, because I think the part that's most inferior is the music. Not to say it's not good, but I kind of only remember Jolene's theme.
Same here. That is pretty much all I remember.
Part 5, I can recall a few tracks, and part 4 as well, and the previous parts. But
JoJo has a good soundtrack up until this, where there's only one song I remember, and it's the main character theme.
Like they reuse more songs from previous parts than actually use their own. Maybe when the OST comes out in like 20 years, I'll find some that I missed. But
this actually it's funny that you bring up the music, because I'm just reminded of another criticism that we levied against the last batch. The stand sounds and the sound design is still not as good as it has been.
Okay, on that note, there is actually one bit of sounds design that I really, really loved, and that I think nearly carried the entire scene, which is when it's in the scene where the bone is making all the trees grow out of people's bodies, and there's like this cracking sound as the branches start bursting from Jolene, and it is such a disconcerting sound. Like, just watching that without such good sound design, I probably would have been like, that seems kind of a little unfortunate, a minor inconvenience. But with those sounds,
I forgot about that scene. Like, as in coming in from like the manga, like I forgot that happened.
But yeah, with the sound design, it's so creepy. It is so like. That was one of the parts where I was like glued to the screen, like, whoa, that sounds incredibly uncomfortable and painful even.
Yeah, that was good, but like, man, what can you even tell me what Diver Down sounds like?
No.
Nope.
Exactly. I'm trying to remember what he sounds like. All he does just like he phases through something with like the most obvious phasing through sound ever.
Okay, so I'm gonna get all the way back to those white characters that Neon was mentioning, where they make the background characters just white, blank, vacant spaces.
Yes, comments. I know that's how it was in the manga, but you can't do it here.
Yeah, with everything in color.
This is a moving picture show.
So I've seen shows where I appreciate the white characters in the background because it's like, oh, you didn't use CG pedestrians, and here it works with the art style. Off the top of my head, Azumanga Daioh, like Yui Yushiki, I think Lucky Star did it occasionally, Achikochi. But the issue is, those are cute girls' slice of life shows. They are not JoJo's, which is significantly more violent and takes itself a lot more seriously. Where having just this vacant white space, that's one of the instances where it does take you out of the experience. Where it's like, oh, that's just nothingness. The world feels significantly less real now. Whereas in like a goofy comedy with like a cutesy art style, it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
like
that is
it's somewhat fine in a medium like a manga where it's you're basically watching a series of slideshows when reading a manga. So, you'll probably want to put your focus on the main like center piece of attention, which would be like the main characters or like their enemies, and you can get away with having the background characters or extras just be gray outlines because it's like, oh, they're just kind of like off in the distance, and like it's a visual shorthand for saying how they're not really important, but there are in fact people here. They're just like off in the background, so negligible they can be depicted as this white void of an outline. In the TV show, where there's a lot more time focused on a shot, because there has to be, because now when you're reading a manga, you can go at your own pace. When you're watching a TV show, the pace is being dictated by the studio, by the creators. So when we see them, and especially in shots where like they're sitting, it's implied that there are people sitting next to them, like, or just like feet away at a table, or like standing behind them at like a bookshelf, and they are as prominent, well, maybe not as prominent at the focal point of the shot, but like they're not even, there's like no depth of field to even like make them blurry in the background. They're like have the same depth of field as the main characters of the focus in the shot, and it just looks ugly.
Something I would like to add on to that is that in a manga, everything is black and white, and it's easier to make.
Well, okay, hold on. When some manga are.
Well,
in color.
okay. Most of the time, a typical manga is in black and white. There we go. There's the asterisk I'm slapping on it.
Which manga are in color that's not just, hey, it's a special celebration, here are the first few chapters in color?
My senpai is annoying. I found a colored version in Barnes & Noble.
Okay, I was going to ask if is that official or if that's just fan, because I know the JoJo colored manga are fan-made.
I mean, I assume it's official if it's in Barnes & Noble.
Probably.
That seems like a lawsuit ready to be delivered if it's fan-made. But in manga, which are typically black and white, not all the time, but typically, it's easier to blend in a white silhouette when everything else is also white. Whereas in the anime, the characters actually have colors. The color of the backgrounds are mostly gray because it's in a prison. And so it's a lot more jarring to see just this vacant, empty space.
Mm-hmm.
And something, now that I'm saying that too, another thing that helps with like all the moe shows I mentioned where like I actually appreciated the vacant space background characters, which is that they all have like these light chipper color palettes, except for like I guess Azumanga Daioh, that was a bit more earthy, but most of them had very bright, vibrant color palettes, whereas this is more darker, very saturated.
Yeah, and like well, I mean, I think we might see some brighter colors in the next batch, but for this, it does make sense why it's also kind of dull.
So I've been meaning to say this for the entire podcast and just, trying to find a way to transition into it. So with this batch of episodes, I have gotten, more acquainted with the JoJo's formula than ever before. I've seen, okay, this is what it's typically like. I'm not sure if I entirely necessarily like it. It's okay, but my biggest problem, well, yeah, I'll start off with this as my biggest problem, even if there are more points sort of tangled up in it, which is that it's very, at least this batch of episode felt so hyper fixated on here's a fight, and then you have all the overreactions of like, I can't believe he did that. What? This wasn't even supposed to be possible. Just, doing that every single fight, and then like every single fight you have the like, oh, here's how the stand works. And I'm not even necessarily saying that it's repetitive in a narrative sense, but that in being so hyper fixated on the same sorts of tones, the same sorts of fight scenes, I feel like it neglects certain other areas that I wanted to see and missed not having.
I do think it depends on the part itself, because like part 4 follows a similar structure, but the way it goes about it is not like the same. And I think at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to like the characters and whatever goal they're trying to do. Because part 4 is generally like more lighthearted than part 6, and then parts 1, 2, and 7 are just completely different structure, and part 8 kinda are just completely different structure wise. So it's kind of so like the JoJo formula really only applies to like parts 3, 4, 5, and 6 really.
All right, so that is interesting to hear.
Right, because
but you were
stands were not in part 1 and 2, and then stands are just kind of different in parts 7 and 8.
You were saying...
I also have an explanation as to why you might feel this way about this particular batch of episodes, Crunchy, because this batch, I figured this out after you had pointed out, and I didn't piece it together until you said it. This batch in particular was very scarce when it came to, or there's scarce amount of character interaction.
That is literally one of the points that was what I was mentioning when I said there's other points tangled up in what I'm saying.
Because
it is like nonstop fight.
So, let me put this into perspective. All right. So
because I was gonna say, because like part 4 has a lot of character interactions, even though there's a lot of fights in it as well.
Okay, I wanna watch that instantly now. So so I was going into this not really remembering the first part, having hazy memories, sort of understanding the gist of it, starting off kind of brain dead tired as well, and the part that sort of, first there was the scene where one of the prisoners like threw their own shit at Jolene and said, "Oh, my shit touched a woman. I'm so excited." And that jolted me awake, obviously.
Literally me.
He's just like me for real. But then the other scene that jolted me awake after that was this. I absolutely love this interaction where Foo Fighters decides to do everything in like the opposite. Because, what I was doing before didn't work. So if I do the opposite of everything, then it'll start working. Hey, what's the opposite of coffee? Tea? Okay, I'll get tea instead. And then like she goes up to the lunch line and it's like, hey, what's the opposite? Or like, oh, they're serving pork. What's the opposite of a pig? And Jolene's like, I don't know, a chicken? And then the lunch lady's like, no, the opposite of a pig is a salmon. Because pigs
and she gets like enthusiastic about it.
So incensed.
And gives like an actual logical explanation. It's like pigs lay in the mud and like lays about. Fish like salmon swim upriver and like they fight just to move.
No, I love the specific terminology. She says pigs are lazy fat asses, salmon are badasses. And it's just incredible. It's the best thing. But that's
and
like
she gives her salmon because of it, and then Foo Fighters like, hell yeah.
But that's like one of maybe 2 super memorable character interactions that lasted even a decent amount of time. The other one being when Anasui wants to trip Jolene just so that he can catch her. and has Foo Fighters do that for him, which I thought was very funny. But other than that, it's so fight scene focused. And I think a part of the issue is just that it has been so long since I've seen the first part, so like I was sort of waiting for the refresher on the characters because normally when you start a new season of a show, the expectation is like, okay, we're going to have at least a little bit of leading in period to get reacquainted, assuming that the viewers are, a little forgetful, a little foggy memory. But this didn't have, I mean, I guess Foo Fighters scene with doing everything the opposite could count as that, but I don't know. I just wanted more character interactions.
Like Hermes has one fight and then she's just out for the rest of the batch.
Yeah. That was also, I did notice that a little weird, considering she was set up as honestly, like one of the major characters.
And like she is, but like it is. I've noticed it here because the previous parts do kind of have like one character where they get a fight, and then that's it for them, even though they stick around. But I never felt it was like this where they're just out of the plot until they come back.
I was surprised that Foo Fighters. It feels like she's gotten more screen time than Hermes so far.
Pretty much.
Even though from this point on, Hermes will permanently have more screen opportunity for screen time than her.
Foo Fighters.
Yeah. The missing character, I think the missing character interactions are probably one of the biggest issues for me because I've said this over and over again on the podcast. I'm not big into action series, generally speaking, but my favorite, like, almost purely action piece of fiction is Katanagatari. I haven't actually watched the anime, I've only read the novels. But in Katanagatari, what I think made it work, or at least is one of the biggest things that made it work, is that every novel had a sort of formula, and the formula went as such. The first chapter or two would be generally Shichika and Togame just chatting it up, having a Monogatari-esque conversation about whatever the heck they're thinking about. And sometimes they would weave in little bits of like, okay, here's the opponent, we're about to be fighting, but they'd constantly get derailed, and you really got a sense of who these two people are and how they interact with others. Like, by the end of the series, like, Togame and Shichika are just permanently etched into your minds because it's like, oh, we've spent so much time just hearing them talk outside of battle like normal people. Like, the beginning of the 5th novel is literally Togame being like, we've been doing a little too much work recently. We've had 4 fights in a row. How about let's take a break at a hot spring? And then they just go to the hot spring like it's a slice of life anime. And that's something I really appreciated about Katanagatari. Granted, I say that as a slice of life fan, but it really made me care about these characters when they got into the fights. That is to say that having so few character interactions, it's like, okay, well, this is just a fights. But it's like, I want more time with these characters so that I care about the fights. Because as is,
Anasui just inserts himself into the story.
To be fair, he is kind of immediately endearing because of his crush on Jolene. I did find
it's funny that we're saying he's immediately endearing about serial killer.
Aside from that whole killing people thing, he just can't resist taking things apart. But aside from that whole biz, yeah, his crush on Jolene is endearing. So I was a little invested in him. Not incredibly, but a little bit. But I wish we just had, some scenes of characters just doing whatever the hell.
And we almost got them, but then we had to go right back into the fights.
I just want to see Foo Fighters doing everything opposite for 10 minutes straight.
Like the scene after, like, they beat Dragon's Dream, or Drake's Dream as they call it in Netflix land. The scene where after they beat it, where Anasui's like, "Hey, you should trip Jolene so that she falls into my arms." They talk about that for like 30 seconds, and then it's back to fighting.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating because when I saw that, I was like, a breath of fresh air. they're having funny conversation. I am laughing along with the characters. I'm getting to know how they talk to each other. We're back to the plot. Okay. And to be fair, the actual fight scenes themselves are, they're decently engaging. They have all the strategy, the wacky powers.
It is to JoJo's advantage that every fight feels new, even if there are like similar abilities at play. So I think that's like one way to keep invested.
Yeah, I guess
I believe we said this in the last part, but no two fights in JoJo are the same.
Mm-hmm.
The core of JoJo's, at least from what I can tell at this point, obviously you can correct me, but it's seeing wacky powers and having them interact with other wacky powers and just letting the fireworks play and seeing what happens. It's basically a series of completely off-the-wall scenarios. And
Pretty
the
much.
idea is to constantly change pace because of how crazy the powers are. To where, like, even if you follow the same power over a long stretch of time, because each opponent is so different, you can never count on it behaving the same way.
Even before stands, apart from like part 1, I guess, but part 1's like super short, so it doesn't really matter. But even before stands, Araki was kind of leaning into that no two fights are the same thing. Like Dragon's Dream is a pretty conceptually interesting ability. For example,
the Dragon's Dream fight is probably one of my favorite and one of the most memorable fights of this block of episodes. Because, the first thing that made me interested was when the old geezer, right? He's an old grandpa who's still limber and young and lively and Genki. He's still kicking, so...
he drinks his own piss.
Yeah! So, he said urine therapy, that he does urine therapy in order to stay young. And I paused the episode and I'm like, do I want to know what this is? Because I think I know just from the name. But do I want to know? So, I hit play again. But the question just kept on in the back of my mind. And I was like, damn it, okay, I have to pause. I have to have this on my search history. And I guess it could have gone in incognito, but then my internet provider would have it. And yeah, I figured out what urine therapy is. It was exactly as I thought. Basically, people who go...
until you try it.
I don't think I want to try it anytime soon. It's basically people... It's alternative medicine of people who think that Bear Grylls really did have the right idea. But yeah, the old geezer, that immediately was like, okay, so I get where he's coming from, and then there's the backstory with the cult, and it's like, yeah, that fits in perfectly with a dude who practices urine therapy. And then there's this other sort of like pseudoscientific alternative concept where it's like certain directions or areas attract good or bad luck, and if you can figure out where they are, then you can live your life to the fullest, knowing where the bad luck be. And it is used constantly throughout the fight of being like, okay, this is my safe zone. The Dragon's Dream tells me exactly what direction I should attack from. And it's basically constantly having the odds stacked against Foo Fighters, who is the one partaking in this fight. And I especially love the ending, because it's just so many immediately plot twists in rapid succession, where Foo Fighters uses basically uses the sweat on the man's head in order to create a mirror using her powers. That makes him confused as to what direction he should attack from, and so he ends up attacking from the wrong direction. But then I'm actually trying to remember the exact way this happens. But
it's when Foo Fighters gets when Foo Fighters gets pushed into the electric chair.
Yeah.
By the way, can we talk about how Foo Fighters dies like 3 times in this entire arc?
I, honest to God, I thought after the boiling water seemingly killed her, I thought when she came back in like that Atro shaped Foo Fighters like skin body, I thought they had added that, like that was completely different from the manga.
Nope. But honestly, I thought so too. There are certain parts of this manga that I just don't remember because it's been a while.
I was like, oh my god, is Foo Fighters? Are they like, actually gonna change like the story drastically? Are they gonna keep Foo Fighters around a little bit longer?
Nope.
Yeah, Foo Fighters gets on the brink so many times. And as I was saying earlier, the first time it's because the mirror had trying to remember what it is. Like the little fish. That's what are they called? Shrimp?
The plankton?
They're not shrimp. Plankton. Yeah.
They're not
definitely
they're not
shrimp.
fish, actually.
I will fucking kill
The first
them.
time
I will
it's
destroy
because she got in the electric chair that Anasui said, oh yeah, the volts here would pretty much enter instantly, and then they didn't. And then she gets boiled alive, but then she didn't. But then the third time, then like, yeah, she does die, for real.
Yeah, I like it. First time, the volts would destroy any aquatic organism instantly. Doesn't. Second time, the water will boil her. Any aquatic organism instantly. Doesn't. Getting her head smashed despite her still technically being plankton, and so she could just reform. Nope, that's the one that does her.
Well, to be fair, Whitesnake did take the disc after that. So what was left was just like a dying husk. Because there can't be no stand if there's no stand disc. But I do like that Foo Fighters was like glad in a way because she found proof that she was alive.
Okay, I just want to mention that the little monologue Foo Fighters has about her perspective on memory was like so immediately characterizing for her and almost makes up for how few character interactions there are in this scene. Almost, not quite, but almost. Where she basically says, like, memory is all I have. It is the proof that I am sentient. Because before, I was not sentient. I lived in this sort of memoryless haze of doing the same tasks robotically without any semblance of free will. I just did, but did not even necessarily choose to do it, and I didn't remember anything, and my memory of those times are hazy. But ever since then, I've made tons of good memories. And it's like, that's so sweet. And then she dies, and it's like, ah, dang. Well, at least I was a little more invested.
Aw, darn, shucks.
Ah, shucks. This ain't a very happy moment. This is no good.
I will say though, I'm a little pissed at the way she actually died this time, cause like, how the fuck? How did Whitesnake disguise himself perfectly as Weather Report? Was that another established power of his?
You know, I don't actually know.
I believe illusion is one of the things.
I thought he could only push it. He had to push him in a dream to do that, though.
It counts.
It just counts. That's fucking bullshit. You can't just make up new powers.
JoJo's has a lot of that, from what I'm hearing.
You can't just make up new powers, just like you can't just forget powers that you already have. Gold experience.
Like, I'm fine with them like developing new techniques based on their currently existing ones, like how Crazy Diamond learns how to shoot bullets with his ability, or even like Gold Experience learns how to replace limbs by giving it life. But you can't fucking be like, yeah, my not only can I take stands and turn them into discs with memories as well, I can also put you in a dream-like state with my goo. But then also I can turn my stand into another person with the illusion you don't even have to be asleep for it this time.
Oh man,
Bullshit.
you're gonna love Weather Report, like The Stand.
I mean, I know a weather report gets crazier, especially when the thing happens, which I won't say, but yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else to say.
One of my favorite parts of the season was definitely the final 2 episodes where Jolene, the scenario is to me so fascinating, where Jolene can only remember 3 pieces of new information at a time. She still has all her long-term memories, so she knows the prison layout, she knows who everyone is. But she can only take in 3 new pieces of information. And at first I was worried at how flexible quote-unquote pieces would be, but they did make it at least fairly clear, at least from my perspective, where it was like how the brain interprets it as like a new piece of information. Sort of like, here's a sentence, all right, so that's bundled up as one piece of information. Or like 3 separate, like when Jolene drops the bullets to make the guards forget who they are. It's like the 3 separate clinks basically get interpreted as 3 separate messages, and that causes them to forget everything. It didn't seem like it was ever at least doing too much of an ass pull when it came to the memory stuff specifically.
I do think the way it's resolved is also pretty neat as well.
Bro, she got fucking Emporio in like the worst vicious cycle of all time.
I honestly didn't remember how. Hang on, I need to look this up because I don't remember how Emporio got affected.
Didn't he try to escape with burning down the house, but then she just caught him at one point?
No, because I mean, I think because like she didn't know where the room was.
Wasn't it something to do with the computer screen as well? Or was that something else?
Hang on.
Oh, we're doing the hardcore research this time around.
Hang on, because I feel like something was.
Damn, if only someone took notes.
Hey, you're saying that as someone who didn't take notes either, Neon.
Yeah, I know. Look, it's not about being right. It's about having the moral high ground. All I know is that, damn, I spilled my water. I gotta go unplug the thing, the power shorting out. I gotta go tell Jolene, I spilled my water. Ow, I've been zapped.
It's hell. It's absolute
I don't
hell.
think it's.
How did that not just kill him?
Bold of you to assume that things like electrified water would kill someone in JoJo's.
I want to say JoJo's has gone on for so long that that has to have killed someone at some point. I mean, someone in part 4 got electrocuted to death.
Yeah, but then Foo Fighters ended up on the electric chair, and that didn't do it.
Well, to be fair, in that instance, it was because Foo Fighters still had
Fighters is the main
plankton.
character.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
But also, it was outside of the chair. That was the explanation to where, okay, there are plankton that didn't get electrocuted, and they can go back into Foo Fighters, and she can slowly regenerate. So, I guess that wouldn't count, because the explanation is that, well, there are parts of her that didn't get electrocuted.
Honestly, it's just funny how injured people get in this part, because they don't have, like, the healer character. I mean, they did, but they don't now.
They don't anymore.
Not anymore.
Because like, in part 4 and part 5, that was, like, the abilities of, like, the main character. of the JoJo, but that's not a thing here. The most Jolene can do is just stitch together her wounds.
And also sometimes reform pieces of her tongue.
And sometimes just merge herself onto the back of a policeman.
You just don't think about it.
It's just JoJo things.
Speaking of JoJo things, once again, some of the best scenes from this part are the flashbacks with Dio and Poochie.
Mm-hmm. This is probably like the most humanized part 6 deserves a lot of credit for like really humanizing Dio. Because
it's almost like it's almost to the point where it's like it's crazy to think that part 3 Dio and part 6 Dio are the same character.
Pretty much.
I have no context as to who Dio is.
Honestly, I'm kind of. I feel like you should have at least had like some like passing knowledge of like who Dio was, like before even starting part 6.
I knew he existed. That is about it. Oh, and also the "It's me, Dio" meme.
Mm.
That is the extent.
Yeah,
of
you don't
my
need to watch the
knowledge.
show. That's all you need to know.
The entire
That's
character
sufficient
right there.
Cliff notes.
This is somewhat related to Dio, is just generally, but I do like how his voice actor is just, because like we all know Koyasu's voice, but like the moment you hear it, you just go, "It's Dio," like just regardless of which character is coming out of.
I'd have to look up his other, like all his other roles, because I know I've heard his voice in other shows. I'm trying to remember if he can do anything that's not the Dio voice though.
Shirogane's dad in Love Is War.
Yeah, I know that, but that's the Dio voice. I'm trying to think of a character that he plays as, but he doesn't do the Dio voice.
Here's the thing. I think he only does the Dio voice.
Like how, what's his name? Daisuke Ono only does the Jotaro voice.
Pretty much. Like you hear Koyasu and like you just know it's him.
Ifaruz continues to deliver a great performance as Jolene.
Mm-hmm.
She's got some pretty good auras.
I hope you like auras, because that's the only thing people do after this part. As in, like, later JoJo parts, not like part 6.
Okay, so here's a question, because I might have missed something. So I want to see if you can answer it, right? So they get to the part where the plant baby has born, but they can't approach it because, as they approach it, they get smaller, and therein the distance between them and the baby increases.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's basically an infinite loop. Then Jolene tries falling on top of the baby, but there's this, all of a sudden, this stand that comes in.
Yeah.
And then they eventually, however, get it trapped in a bottle. I don't quite understand how it was small enough to fit in the bottle, but big enough that it couldn't escape the bottle. Did I miss something?
I think it's the distance relative, like the whole shrinking the rules.
Because I wasn't
I think
100% clear on if the stand was subject to the shrinking that the characters were, or if that the stand had control over what size it was. Because at first I thought it had control over its size.
I believe the shrinking is passive.
I think the baby was also like chasing after them, so it was like the size was being sent into flux.
Mm.
Because I remember when they trapped the stand in the bottle, the baby was like felt trapped as well.
I'm trying to think of if I have anything else to say.
I guess the last thing to talk about is how Poochie gets his hands on the baby. And now we've got a new ticking clock element. We got to await the
I think
new
it was
moon.
something like 6 nights, which I thought was so fast. Like, oh, that's barely any time.
You forget they took like 10 minutes. That whole, according to the guards, the whole thing with like them fighting, the survivor, the meteor guy, the dragon's dream, and fucking the stuff before they left the prison with Yo-Yo Ma was all 10 minutes.
There's no way. That's impossible.
Welcome to cinematic shonen time, brother.
Okay, I think it was 10 minutes since they lost contact. But at the same time,
I thought the guard said we were only gone for like 10 minutes.
I think it was when they first went to check in on it. I don't know. But this is also the same part where part 5 happens in like a week.
On the subject of the meteor guy, by the way, I really like the resolution to that fight. I thought it was pretty clever and
Planet
also
Waves is
fun.
a cool stand.
You mean Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Yeah, so here's the thing. That was what it was called originally, and then Araki realized, wait a minute, I already used this name.
So how the fight gets resolved is that... Okay, so I love this specific moment where the guy thinks he's won, but then Jolene's like, you think you've won. However, I just stole your shoe. And it's such a non sequitur. It's so hilarious. And it's like, well, how's that gonna fix anything? But then you see what she's getting at. And it's like she put the rubble from the broken wall into her boot and then put that at the back of her neck so that when the meteor hit, it would hit the rubble and decrease the damage done to her. Then she made the boot get hit by the meteor, then fly towards the guy where, like, before the meteors were burning up before they could hit him. But the meteor burned up, but the boot did not. So he got hit with the boot, and it game ended him.
Mm-hmm.
Very clever. I'm not gonna question how Jolene survives multiple meteor strikes, but he, like, one hit to the head with a boot filled with, like, brick rubble does him in. I'm just not gonna ask that question. I'm also not gonna question
why she was, like, not as affected by Survivor as everyone else was.
Yeah, just don't question that part either. I had that question, but I just stopped questioning. That's just how it happens in JoJo's.
I like how Survivor just kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, like that was really weird to me. Where, like it's because I thought it was gonna go down that, like, okay, this is the scenario we're going to be dealing with for this entire fight. This is going to be the one stand where everyone's constantly angry and attacking each other, but it really just seemed like an odd pretense and an unnecessary one in order to get everyone fighting. But it's like, well, you can just craft a scenario where all the stands
the thing is,
attack Jolene at once.
Everyone fighting doesn't even, like, matter, is the thing.
I guess it's an excuse to make sure that, like, the stands don't all gang up on her at once because they're too busy dealing with other people. So I guess that's, like, a plot hole thing. Like, okay, make sure that plot hole doesn't exist. Never mind all the other ones, but, you know, that one, we can't have that one. But, I don't know, it just doesn't... Like, by the time Foo Fighters is fighting this one guy, I'm pretty sure Survivor should... yeah, the guy with Dragon's Dream. Foo Fighters is fighting him. And this is part of the... Sort of, like, contiguous with the other fight. So, there's no reason to believe that Survivor wouldn't still be in effect, but it just doesn't really matter to the fight. It's just not an issue. Oh, I'm not mad anymore. Nobody's mad anymore by that point.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just realized Survivor didn't need to be censored.
Huh.
What did they call... I forget what they call it in the subs.
They called it Survivor.
They just called it Survivor.
Oh, it didn't get censored. Okay. I thought you were saying it did get censored but didn't need to.
And you
Well,
would say, oh, it's because
none of them really need to.
You would say, oh, it's just because it's just a standard. It's just a standard, like name. It's just a standard word. It doesn't matter much, except Echoes gets renamed to Reverb for some reason. That's a part 4 stand, by the way.
Echoes. Okay, that's weird. That just doesn't make any sense. It's just
Like
Echoes.
Now, like in part 7,
Heaven's Door doesn't need to be renamed.
The only one where I kind of get it is like part 7 stands, if only because Araki gets like really specific with stand names there.
You mean when he gave up?
Like, hang on. Like, I could bring the obvious dirty deeds done dirt cheap, which will always be hilarious, but then you get Oh Lonesome Me. You get In a Silent Way, Tomb of the Boom. Actually, the only one that probably won't be censored at all is Chocolate Disco, because that's a J-pop song, so they'll probably get away with that one.
Just think, if the timelines have shifted, we could have had the stand called Platinum Disco.
Oh, I would have been here for that one.
I think in closing thoughts, I'm trying to grow facial hair like Poochie at the end of this batch of episodes. Because goddamn, his beard growing game is insane.
I was admittedly a little let down after this arc, because it feels to me almost like a one-trick pony. At least this specific batch of episodes, where it's just like, here's the JoJo thing. This is the JoJo thing. We're gonna give you more of that. Nothing else. It's just this type of fight scene over and over again. It's like,
I did feel a little fatigued by the end.
Yes.
I
felt pretty immediately fatigued, and
I
only
think
at some of the more
middle
interesting stands did I begin to like wake up from my trance.
I think this middle part of Stone Ocean is kind of like weak, like just revisiting it through the anime. I know, at least thankfully the next batch will open up with a banger, but we'll have to wait until like May for that. So, back to the back burner it goes.
I thought part 1 of this arc was really at least solid. I gave it a 7. But I was like, yeah, I can see how this could like build on itself and become this really massive thing. I'm just not feeling this part nearly as much.
Yeah, this is the least interested I've been in JoJo.
Oh dang!
I will say,
forever.
At the very least, it's still not part 3.
Well, okay, yeah, I was gonna say, since I watched part 3 last because I was like, my watch order was 1, 2. I can't remember if I finished 5 or 4 first. I think I finished 5 first. 4, then 3. Now we're at 6.
Listen,
and I'm
Crunchy,
like, damn.
If you ever get to part 3, literally just read it, because the anime's pacing is so sluggish.
I will keep
it's still
that
fun.
in mind.
It's fun.
I would say watch it. You gotta watch it just for the best stand battle in the series.
Okay, so here's the thing. Read up until they get to Egypt, then watch when they get to Egypt. That's how I would handle part 3.
When you see a dog, that's when you start watching the show.
Because like part 3's main issue is that Araki is figuring out stands, so a lot of the stand fights are like really basic, especially in like the first half of part 3. Like where is the meme? I'm gonna show you the meme. Hang on.
I'm gonna become indoctrinated into the JoJo's memes.
It's so funny. Hang on. Okay. All right. Hang on. This is I like this one. I'm gonna post it right here. This is
Part 8 stands.
I am going to beat you to death.
That's literally what it is.
With that,
no, I'm sorry. There's another one I found like immediately next to it. It's just really. All right, hang on. This is the last one.
swimming.
It's good at swimming. Yeah. On one final note, since I guess I typically give the numbers, I'd give this honestly like as low as like a strong 5 to a very light 6. Like, it's just
This is hovering around 6 territory for me as well.
I mean, I have it listed as a 5 currently on AniList. It's just I want more character interactions, and I want it to not be such just one thing. Like, oh, this is the show's one thing. Like, okay, that's a really good thing, but I want another thing, like on top of that.
I would put it like a 6, 7, 6 around here. The thing is, I kind of don't want to give part 6 anime like the score right now because they're splitting it up like this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give it. I'm not gonna give any batch a score. I'm gonna score the entire show once it's done. Mm-hmm. But as it stands right now, it's like hovering around 6 territory for me.
Yeah, if I'm considering the entire, like both batches together, then yeah, it's hovering around a 6. But I mean, I gave part 1 a 7. I'm giving part 2 a 5, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I know I gave the manga an 8, but that was like a few years ago. And, you know, the anime usually makes me appreciate it more. We will see. Because at the end of the day, I'm always more of an anime guy than the manga guy, so... I prefer
when at the start of the podcast. Yeah, this is my coming back my anime hiatus, by the way.
Well, I mean, hey, Mob Psycho is in a few weeks, so...
Aren't you gonna watch Chainsaw Man?
Maybe. I don't know. I still haven't finished Spy X Family.
Sin.
Treason.
I say as someone who has not finished Kaguya Season 3 yet.
I say as someone who has not even started Kaguya Season 3.
Well, I think that'll just about do it for this episode of Castaway Anime. Unless y'all got any parting thoughts.
Nope, I think we've said it all. I did, at least. I don't know about you, Crunchy.
No, I don't have any more thoughts.
Alright, well, Armagon, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me at twitter.com at Armagon1000.
And that's literally it.
I guess.
I guess I'm still working on that Tomazaki-kun vid. It'll come out someday, I swear.
I am working on Splatoon 3 content now. The production on all of my projects that was going to be put on a bit of a hiatus until I'm able to do something with Adobe products that I'm not legally allowed to say, but I'm at a moral obligation to perform the action, and that's all. I'll leave it at that. But if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a like. Let us know what you thought about it and the show. JoJo in the comments. Tell us how fucking wrong we are and how JoJo is actually the best shonen. And if you enjoyed yourself, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more episodes and more podcasts, more videos, more goodness. We'll see you in 9 months for the 3rd batch.
If I remember what the plot even is by then.
I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And I'm Armagon.
And you'll see us next time.